Okay, so to begin with, we're starting with red bell pepper, orange bell pepper, and mushrooms. These all help with healthy hair. The red bell pepper and the orange bell pepper help circulate blood flow in the scalp, which improves the growth of your hair. Mushrooms contain copper and iron, which both promote healthier and stronger hair. So we're going to start with those in our dish. Then I'm going to add the spinach. Spinach is fantastic for healthy hair care. It also facilitates longer hair. So at this point, I'm just putting the bell peppers, the mushrooms, and I'm also adding tomato, and I'm sauteing them together. I'm going to add the spinach last because it cooks very quickly. So I'm just going to saute all of these together and let them cook down. I'm going to put a little salt and pepper on them to give them some seasoning. And then after that, I will let them cook down to get softer. And then I'll add my spinach. So right now I'm just adding the salt and the pepper. And again, that's just going to give them some flavor because, you just don't want a bland dish. But this dish tastes so good. Okay, so salt and pepper them. I'm gonna let them cook down. Meanwhile, I'll get my pan. So I'm gonna use this pan to cook it in. I love this pan. It's a small enough pan, for the dish. So I'm just gonna add my white bread at the bottom. You can also add hash browns if you like, but we're out of hash browns today, so I'm gonna use white bread. It's all the same to me. It still tastes great. So at this point, I'm just taking 2 slices and I'm just really in no fancy way, just, shredding it up and putting it in the bottom of the pan, as you can see here. So it doesn't have to be fancy. You just want to make sure the bottom of the pan is covered. So I'm just going to use one more piece. So I used 3 pieces total. And now you can see that with all 3 pieces, it covers the bottom of the dish. So now I'm going to go back to my vegetables just to check on them. They look like they are softening up very nicely. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of make a hole in the center of them. And I'm going to add my spinach because they look like they are cooking up very well. So I'm just going to create a hole in the middle. I'm not going to take them out, and I'm going to add my spinach. All right, so here I am adding my spinach. And when you add the spinach, you want to add way more than you think you'll need because the spinach cooks down to almost nothing. Like while I'm putting it in, it looks like I'll have way more spinach than vegetables, but you'll see once it cooks down, it's like, we're having all that spinach. So you always want to use way more spinach than you think you'll need when you're trying to cook it down. Like I could have used that whole bag and it would have been fine, but I wanted to save some for my quiche that I'll be cooking later. So I'm just gonna let this, I'm gonna add salt and pepper to that as well, but I'm also just gonna let that cook down, and it doesn't take long to cook down at all. All right, so as you can see, the spinach has cooked down, and like I said before, there's still way more vegetables of the other vegetables than the spinach. So it's a nice blend. I love the color mixture, the red, the yellow, the orange, the brown mushrooms, the green spinach. It just makes the dish just look so great. So now I'm just going to add it to my pan. So I'm just adding it on top of the bread. You layer everything first before you add the eggs, which is the superstar of the dish. But so I'm just layering it on top of the bread at this point. And the bread is on the bottom to also help soak up a lot of the juices that this dish contains. So as I add all of this, I just kind of want to spread it out to where you really don't see the bread. That's why I'm trying to put it in there all cute. But you want to spread it out to where you really don't see the bread. So you just add all the vegetables on top. Then I'm shredding up some extra sharp cheddar cheese. You can add whatever kind of cheese you like. If you want to do mozzarella, I am a big fan of Gouda, but I'm also a fan of using what I have. So at this moment, I have sharp cheddar. So that's what's going in the dish. And I really don't have to be considerate of what my kids think for this dish because they don't eat this. Just me and my husband eat this. So now I'm going to add my eggs. I'm going to use 6 eggs. And eggs are, like I said, the superstar of the dish because they contain a lot of biotin. A lot of people take biotin to help their hair grow. So eggs contain that. So when you eat eggs, you are getting a lot of biotin in your system. So we're using 6 eggs for this. All right, and then you know there's sharp cheddar cheese. It has a lot of vitamin C in it also, which has calcium, and all of that is good for the hair. I mean, it's good for the whole body, but your hair does reap the benefits. So that's 4 eggs. I'm gonna have 5, and then I'm gonna do 1 more egg before I add my milk. And if you have not noticed yet, I do not really measure my ingredients. I was not taught to cook that way. So I just kind of eyeball it, see what looks right. Whatever looks right, you know, I just let the food gods talk to me, tell me when to stop, and that's when I stop. So I do add a little bit of salt and pepper. Let me grab the pepper. But I'm adding salt and pepper to my eggs as well. And then I'm going to beat my eggs. And then I will add my milk. So again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy or anything. You just want to beat them to where it's just not 6 yolks sitting in your pan. So now I'm just grabbing the almond milk. I like to use almond milk because it is very low in calories, way lower than regular milk. You can use regular milk. You can use soy milk, coconut. You can use whatever kind of milk you like. For this dish, I'm using almond milk. And I guess you could say, if I had to guess how much milk that was, I would say about a cup to 6 eggs. But again, don't quote me. That's not an exact measurement. I just go by how it looks. Once it looks right, that's when I stop. So I'm gonna pour the egg mixture on top of everything else. All right, and what that's gonna do is gonna soak all the way in. And don't worry, you will not have a dish that has eggs just on top. You're gonna still see the cheese on top. It's gonna almost look like the eggs are on the bottom, even though they're not. But the eggs help to like soak everything in and hold the dish together so it just doesn't fall apart on your plate. And I'm gonna let this sit overnight. So as it sits overnight, it's gonna set in the dish, and then everything else is gonna rise to the top, and the eggs are gonna go down to the bottom. So I'm just gonna grab my foil at this point. So I'm grabbing my foil, and you wanna let this again sit overnight. You can let it sit for like an hour if you're just in a rush, 30 minutes to an hour. But I always try to cook it the night before. And then when I cook it the night before, once I get up in the morning, I can just throw this in the oven while I'm getting ready. And then I can grab me some to go when I walk out the door. And it's a fantastic world. So I'm just gonna and you want to put the foil on there kind of tight so there's like not a lot of air getting inside there. Oh my goodness, look at this dish. This is the next morning.